Thank you, Mrs. Georgieva and Minister Al-Jadaan for taking my question. This is Noor Ammash from Al-Sharq with Bloomberg from Dubai and Riyadh. So my question is about AI. In the past, the industrial gap between countries was the cause of divergence between the economies of the North and the South. Now we know that the US and China are on the right track with the AI boom. To what extent do you think this AI gap will be the next gap that will widen the difference between the economies of the North and the South? And who is the most susceptible here? Is it the lower income countries only, or the countries that don't have access to cheap energy to build data centers, as probably countries like Saudi Arabia might benefit, as Minister Al-Jadaan pointed out a few days ago in one of the sessions that he has held this week on the sidelines of the IMF meetings? Thank you.
We have created an AI preparedness index exactly because of the essence of your question. We don't want AI to turn into yet another vehicle of divergence. We would like it to help the process of convergence. What we have done is we identified 4 key factors for preparedness for AI. First, digital infrastructure. Second, skills and labor markets that can support adoption of AI. Third, innovation and how it flows from one place to another in the economy. And fourth, regulation and ethics. And when we applied this index to 174 countries, we came with some worry and with some hope. Worry because indeed advanced economies and emerging, more dynamic emerging market economies, including countries in the Gulf, are in the upper 1/3 of the index. Low-income countries are at the bottom. A little bit of hope because we also see a recognition in many developing economies that they need to move fast so they can leapfrog with AI. My advice to low-income countries, to developing economies, eliminate first and foremost the technical obstacle. If you don't have access to electricity, you don't have access to the internet, you cannot be part of the AI revolution. And while, and this is where your point about the World Bank and the IMF working together, the World Bank has set a target of 300 million people with access to electricity out of the 600 million that don't have it today. That has to be seen as priority for the countries and for their development partners. And it should be also an incentive to bring more private sector energy into resolving this problem. We have seen how the cell phones allowed developing countries to leapfrog. They actually made some of the traditional banking services obsolete. I don't know anybody in a low-income country with a checkbook. Why would they have a checkbook? Why would they have anything but their phone and account in which they can move money? How can we get AI that easy access to knowledge that AI offers to developing countries? This is the task. So it is an opportunity for convergence, but you're right. Unless it is pursued with a systematic approach, it may turn into a risk for divergence.
And by the way, I think, just to complement this, I think the gap is not really about between South and North.
Mm-hmm.
So you will have
Yep.
potentially the risk of, enlarging that gap, but actually within specific countries.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yes.
take any country, even advanced economy, I think you will have to watch for that risk of gap widening within that same country. So one need to be careful. I think I am actually optimist that even with these risks, if we focus on managing them right, you will be able actually to provide significantly more efficient and cheaper support. For example, if we talk about the World Bank, the ability of the World Bank actually to provide the support to farmers, they could actually reach millions and hundreds of millions of farmers around the world with a very cheap tool that will actually be otherwise costing them billions and billions using AI tools. So that's where the hope is coming from.
And I'm sorry, you asked whether access to energy, cheap energy, is an advantage. It is an advantage to build the data centers. All other things equal, it is also an advantage if you have lower cost of energy to use to tap into AI. But it is not prohibitive if you don't have this. What would be prohibitive if you don't have a strategy as to how to make AI work for everybody?
I think Africa has the tool, just to take one continent, that a lot of countries, including advanced economies, does not have, which is human capital.
Yes.
I think human capital is as important for AI as energy. So we should not underestimate. If you have that, you don't need the data centers in your country.
Yeah.
You could tap data centers wherever they are. It's the human capital, and I think Africa and a lot of the low-income countries have what it takes. If they just focus on recalibrating their education system, I think they will be there.
Yep.
I have a very short amount of time left, so we will take one very quick final question and then we will wrap up. Okay, so let's go to the gentleman at the end here. Right here, second row at the end.
Kyle Fischel with the National. Thank you for taking my question. Just to bring this back to the spring meetings, you talked about several needs for Syria as it looks to reconnect with the global economy,